is the fourth day of President Muhammadu Buhari in the saddle as President of Nigeria for a second term in office. Another chance to fulfill promises made by the APC with respect to expectations and the way forward. And an Abuja division of the appeal court today says Senator Ademola Adeleke is qualified to contest the 2018 governorship election in Osun State, having possessed the basic qualification of school certificate. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimalia Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos. Well, a new day, but it's a new phase in the new dispensation for the new government. Well, we dissect the opportunities, the twists and the nation's 20 years of democratic rule. My guest tonight is fiery and well known to you. Well, you will find out shortly. After the swearing in yesterday, there was an inauguration dinner, but the President Muhammadu Buhari was absent at that dinner. Professor Yemi Osinbajo jokingly thanked the Senate President Bukola Saraki for not taking advantage of the vacuum between the expiration of the tenure of the government and the swearing event, which took place the following day. At the dinner, the Vice President said, at 1 minute past midnight of Wednesday, the 4-year term of the president and himself ended by exclusion of time. So from 1 minute past 12 of 29th of May to about 10:30 a.m. when they were sworn in for a second term, there was no president or vice president, and makes the Senate president the acting president. Listen to the vice president now.
The 4-year term of Mr. President and I ended by a fluxion of time. So from 1 minute past 12, that was last night, May 29, to about 10:30 a.m. this morning, when we were sworn in for a second term in office, there was actually no president or vice president in Nigeria. Interestingly, nothing went wrong, everything went well, all was okay. When such a situation arises, usually it is the Senate President who acts as President. So when I arrived at the Eagle Square this morning, some may have noticed that the Senate President and I were enjoying a joke. He said to me, jokingly, you better be careful now because you know I am still acting President until you are sworn in. So I'd like to thank Mr. Senate President for not doing anything funny and for making sure that all went well until we were sworn in.
Joke, but it couldn't. It may have ended up as a very serious matter. Well, let's now check out our political roundup. We have more trending political stories for you.
Government and stakeholders in Ekiti State have been deliberating on the best approach to tackle the menace of kidnapping and other crimes rearing their ugly heads in the state. Governor Kayode Fayemi, at a meeting with traditional rulers of communities bordering other states and security chiefs, says crime has no ethnic label and thus should be treated. This morning, Governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, has performed his first assignment. He today received a report from an economic advisory committee set up as governor-elect. The committee, chaired by Professor Usman Bugaje, completed his work within 6 weeks and produced a 3-volume report, including an executive summary that contains collated ideas and programs of action and set the timeline to achieving the transformative agenda that seeks to improve the quality of life of people. The Senate has confirmed the appointment of Justice Sadiq Musa as President of the Customary Court of Appeal in Abuja. His confirmation is on the request of President Muhammadu Buhari. The Senate had to suspend its rules and processes to confirm Justice Musa within minutes from when the letter of President Buhari's request for his confirmation was read to lawmakers. The normal process would have been for the matter to be brought up on another legislative day as a motion and referred to a Senate committee which would screen and recommend his confirmation to the Senate. Meanwhile, the Association of Local Government Administrators in Oyo State, Algon, is reacting to the order of Governor Seyi Makinde. The association, in a swift reaction, says, to say the least, it's unconstitutional, unwise, unexpected, and too hasty for a new government that is yet to find its feet. The organization has asked its members of the respective council to remain calm and peaceful, promising to seek all democratic and constitutional means to correct what they term as illegal act, adding that all will be appropriately updated as events unfold.
We, the democratically elected local government chairmen, under the umbrella of Argon, Oyo State, reject this unconstitutional act of Mr. Governor.
Let's also tell you that an Abuja division of the appeal court has ruled that Senator Ademola Adeleke's appeal that he is qualified to contest the 2018 governorship election in Osun State has been upheld, having possessed a basic qualification of a school certificate. The appellate court consequently set aside the decision of an Abuja High Court in Buhari, which nullified his candidacy in the governorship poll. In the lead judgment, Justice Emmanuel Ajim held that the Buhari FCT High Court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the suit in the first place. The president is in Saudi Arabia for the IOC meeting and on issues relating to Nigeria's international affairs. We have Ambassador Issa Dodo, is Nigeria's ambassador to Saudi Arabia. He joins us via telephone. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on the telephone. Give us an idea of some of the details of what is being discussed. Is it anything in relation to Iran and some of the international issues happening in relation to Iran? That's what we understand might be part of the discussion today.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there was no meeting held in either Makkah or Jeddah. And something to do with Iran was never discussed. This meeting, the agenda on two issues. One, the Palestinian, and the second one for the people. So I don't know how you get your information that something about Iran has taken place.
So, okay, so because we understand that some of these leaders are having this discussion, perhaps it's falling at the same time when this meeting is happening in Saudi Arabia. Some of the implications that there's a history of the summit and a history of Nigeria's relationship with some of the countries involved within the summit. So tell us the implication of some of the possible decisions that could be made at a summit on Nigeria.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Nigeria is not it's not really in very bad bilateral relationship with any country, either Arab country or any other. So Nigeria is having a very good relationship with all the Gulf and the other countries So I can't tell you that there is any friction or any problems between Nigeria and the other countries.
Ambassador Issa Dodo, Ambassador of Nigeria to Saudi Arabia. It's a pleasure hearing your voice and talking to us about that summit where Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is attending. Thank you so much. Well, now to our major discussion for tonight. President Muhammadu Buhari gets a second shot at leading this country. Third shot, actually, second as democratically elected president, having ruled this country as a military leader from 1983 to 1985. Himself and his party, the APC, made several promises in 2015. Were they able to fulfill those promises? Yeah, you are Nigerians and you are able to judge that. Well, they have made some more promises, but the challenges appear to be mounting. How far can they go? The sky is the limit, I guess, only if they get things right. Aside the president getting a second term in office, it's a fifth inauguration ceremony in Nigeria after 5 elections, seeing a smooth transition of power at 3 different times. Now, how far have we come as a country? Can we do better? Let's get talking, everyone, tonight. Grab a seat and let's dialogue. My guest tonight is a former presidential candidate and a former minister, and she has also served as a former vice president at the World Bank. Dr. Oby Ezekwesili is not new to any of you, and he joins us from our Abuja studio. It's a pleasure seeing you again, Dr. Ezekwesili. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is perhaps my first time of talking to you on this program since the presidential election, and I think it's a good place to start by asking you your assessment of that election as far as Nigeria's democratic journey has been.
I think it was a setback for the country. I think that the lessons we take from that election is that there is big work for us to do in terms of the structural change of our politics, as well as getting our political system and all the institutions that underpin the system to work well, so that it will be very clear that we do have free, fair, credible elections, in the sense that we have the best of candidates that are available, and that we have political parties that, not just in name, but indeed are political parties, embodying the kind of vision and the values that we want to see in governance. I do not think that people felt that the 2019 elections rose to the standard that we were hoping it would rise to, considering that it heralded 20 years of our democratic journey.
It gladdened the heart of some of your supporters who saw you emerging as a presidential candidate, but you broke their heart at some point when you withdrew from the race. Are we seeing Oby Ezekwesili on the ballot anytime soon?
One thing that you can be sure of is that Oby Ezekwesili is now in politics. And I want to be the voice for politics that's based on values, very strong values that are not negotiable. I had to withdraw from the presidential race because not even the politics of wanting to be president of Nigeria would make me negotiate my fundamental values to which I am totally committed.
Let's talk about where we are right now, the government of the day, because either you support them or you do not, is the government of Nigeria as we speak. Your assessment of the past 4 years, our democratic journey, and another 4-year mandate this government has gotten. Okay, let me get the question back again. My question is that the government of the day, they've spent a 4-year term, and they're going to spend another 4 years, a second chance at government, in governance. So your assessment of this government and our democratic journey.
You know, it's often said that democracy is the worst form of government until you've tried the others. Which is a way of saying that no matter how painful and grinding wheel of progress democracy may be, you're better off staying with democracy. So to that extent, all of us must say congratulations to one another for the fact that we remain a democracy. The military is subordinated to the will of the Nigerian people, which is that we vote to be a democratic society. That's one. The second is that usually an expectation is built into democracy that with democracy would come good governance, because there is democratic accountability, and there is more openness and freedom of creativity and freedom of enterprise, as a matter of fact. And that therefore economy will do well, people will have improvement in the quality of life, standard of living basically will improve, and that people would have a sense of security, and that people would feel included, so that there is inclusion, there is that sense of equality of opportunity and equity. When all of these are together, what you generally see is that society begins to move toward prosperity, and people get a sense of, I have a stake in the society, therefore I should not imperil the society. However, our story seems not to have worked out that way. For example, the current administration was voted into office in 2015 promising 3 cardinal areas of improvement. They talked about fighting corruption, talked about ensuring security, and then the economy. On all 3 counts, as we go into the conversation, you would see that data proves otherwise. If it's on security, just some data that we saw recently when the Nigerian Months Citizens Group came out shows that some 3,000 Nigerians were violently killed over the course of 1 year. Now, that's terrible because we do not see that there is any consequence for those killings. That's terrible in a democracy. And then on the economy, we know that the
let me
income
pause
per
you,
capita
Dr. Ezekwesili, for a moment. We will continue the conversation as much as what we need, because a lot of people are asking, even the president did say, true federalism is a necessity right now. We talk about how can we go about it, how can Nigeria rise to become a force to reckon with in the Committee of Nations. That's going to be our next conversation with Dr. Ezekwesili when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program Politics Today, live on Channels Television. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, a former vice president at the World Bank, a former minister of education, and the co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign organization, has been talking to us on the program. He was a former presidential candidate in 2019. He did say he's now back in politics, so we probably will be expecting something bigger from her going forward. Let's get back to the conversation on getting a nation, a stronger nation, and a nation that works. Thank you so much, Dr. Ezekwesili. Let me put you right on the spot. I need to get your assessment, basically, perhaps putting it from a range of 1 to 10 of this government, from what they've done, because they need to also be advised. You have been in government before on what to do in the next dispensation. What would you advise them to focus on, and how would you rate them from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest?
So I began to talk about the performance in terms of security, and I said that not even on that one, on which many people had so much confidence, have we seen stellar performance. And so you'd probably rate them with a 3.54. You look at the economy, that's a disaster. The economy is a complete disaster. What has happened since the government came into office has been a decline. First, we went into recession and went into negative 1.8 growth, % of GDP growth. Then we came out of it 0.8 growth, and then we climbed into 2.38. Now we're 2.01. So what it means is that as these lower levels of growth, GDP growth rate are going on, and our population rate is steady at above 2%, almost 3%, we actually are getting poorer. It's no wonder the World Poverty Clock shows that it is now 90 million Nigerians that are in the extreme poverty category. That's terrible. That's a scorecard that should not earn you anything beyond 2. And then you look at fighting corruption. What at best you would say that they have done is this matter of collecting money that they say have been recovered. We don't know the full transparency of that yet, so we don't really know how much of credence we can give to it. But when you look at fighting corruption, it has to be structural. It has to be institutional. On those scores, they haven't done that much. The president also has not been personally inspiring in terms of the way that he has gotten the entire country to place its legitimacy behind the fight against corruption. So on fighting corruption, I would give them 3.5. So you can see clearly that the aggregate score of the government goes beyond the pale. And that's not good at all, because we were a country that needed to strengthen our growth, deepen our growth, broaden our growth, in order to quickly lift more Nigerians out of poverty. And you stand a chance to do that when you have a steady growth of anything above 7%. We were getting used to 7%, but 7% is not even good enough. We needed to begin to go to double digit.
If you look at it, sorry if I'm aborting again. If you look at it, from the inauguration, though we did not get a speech from the president, but they said they have done the plan next level. That's the agenda of the government for the next 4 years. Is there any inspiration? Is there any hope? Is there any light on the end of the tunnel? Are we in trouble? Do you think this government can take Nigeria to the next level? What are your thoughts?
Wow. You know, Shehu, you asked, are we in trouble? We are in trouble. If we were a publicly quoted company, we would be put up for a special team to undertake a rescue operation on us. Do you understand what it means for us to have near to 25% of unemployment rate in the country, for more than nearly 40% of our young people to be unemployed? Do you know what it means for us to have the largest number of out-of-school children? Do you know what it means for our income per capita to be constantly on the decline, especially in a situation where we are at a low base of income per capita? Do you understand what it means for you to have social destabilization coming from a sense that people have that there is no hope? I'm sure you've seen anecdotally the number of suicide cases that we're seeing in the country. We are in serious trouble. And so to your question as to whether I see hope, well, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. What we need to see is that there is a radical sense of change, of ways of doing things. If we're going to be going on the same path in terms of the economic policy choices of the administration, then I see no hope. But you know, look, I am a child of God, so I am ever so hopeful. But you know, what I keep saying to people who lead nations is that God did not decide to come down to govern your country. He gave you every faculty to be able to get the ideas of how to lead your nation, solve the problems of your nation.
Right.
So when I see evidence of sound
sorry again.
Shehu, ask me this question again. I would say there is plenty of evidence that the direction leads us toward climbing out of the depth of labyrinth that we have fallen into in terms of economic progress.
Dr. Ezekwesili, if you were the one elected as Nigeria's president and you are sitting there as Nigeria's president, what would you do differently? And perhaps this is your first day in office. What is it that you will be tackling first and urgently?
That's a very good question that you asked. So number one, a divided country needs a leader who immediately sends a signal that it is indeed one country and that we are one people, not a president who is parochial, who is provincial in his disposition, not a president who acts as if all others that come from different places or people who did not vote for him are enemies. The president has no luxury of having an enemy. Any true leader cannot have an enemy amongst his people. For what? You know, so I would unite the people behind that sincerity and openness of leadership that would give people a sense that we are one people and that we have challenges, but we're going to work together and we will overcome the challenges, number one. So that's the social, building back a social cohesion. And then number two would be to identify all of our differences and to set up systems and mechanisms for dealing with those differences. Number three, which is actually, and all these things don't go in that descending order of priority, but a lot of them go together. The launching a massive offensive to tackle the issues of insecurity. Part of I think the major part of insecurity in our country is this sense that people have that they can do anything and they would get away with it. There's been absolutely zero consequence to the kind of violence that we've seen in our country, the kind of criminality that we've seen, where human life is zeroed. That's That would be a no-no under my kind of leadership, because you must send that signal that there is consequence for bad behavior. Number four, you would overhaul the economy. Economic policy has to signal immediately to the market that we will be a government that enables and supports the private sector to do what it must do, while we would invest in the most significant area of human development, health and education, because we need a productive citizenry that can create new opportunities, take advantage of existing opportunities.
I mean, Dr. Ezekwesili, it's always a fascinating time with you each time we have conversation about nation building. There's one interesting area that we are unable to touch tonight, and that's the issue of restructuring and true federalism. I will indeed want to know your views about it, but we are out of time. But it's very good to see you again, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, a former vice president at the World Bank and a former presidential candidate. Thank you so much indeed for coming on tonight. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. Bye-bye.
It's the Channels Book Club's Literature Prize Season 4. This year, the winners get a sponsored trip to one of the world's